It's done, it's done, it's done. I wonder where Koth is. Mr. Kothnaaken. I wonder where Koth is. Well, we're going to just mute my stream on Twitch. Let him know. I'll just move my chat. Okay, so our kernel's done. Now, we got a couple other packages we have to add. The kernel's been installed. Kernel module's been installed for that kernel. And we need grub and a DHCP daemon. We're going to make sure that all of the flags are set correctly for this hardware, because grub for older hardware requires compatibility for legacy BIOS instead of UEFI boot, which I probably have default set in the config files that I imported from my backup. DHCP CD. All right, so what we're specifically looking at here is the grub platforms flag, and right now it's set for 64-bit UEFI. What we need to add and change is the flag for PC. So we'll do that in the config file make.conf. Grub platforms PC. So legacy BIOS. I'll add those in there just for kicks. It's harmless, I'm pretty sure. Oh, and one other one. I knew I forgot one, UFED, which is the use flag global editor for Gentoo Linux. This thing is a slow old machine that I'm connected to. Not quite as pleasant as my new system. I have to do a ZFS root file system install on my NAS server soon. That's going to be fun. I picked up the second matching drive for it. It's good to have two drives. So it's only 2 terabytes, but when you've got one already, you might as well get the same one instead of buying 2. Can't afford all of that stuff at the moment. You know how that goes. Maybe one other package that I'll switch to is the core system mailer for sending like alert messages. Maybe disk monitoring as well. Smart One tools. Could probably add that. That'd be good. Set up a service for it. Oh yeah, Dell XPS caught fire on you. I had that happen once. I had a dual Pentium 3 server probably like 10 or 12 years ago. And we went to my grandmother's for Christmas dinner. And it was in the garage. And came back and opened the garage door. And it could just smell burnt plastic. You know, and while the server wasn't on, I couldn't see the little hard drive light blinking. Well, of course, the power supply had melted. I tell you, I never used a crap power supply again after that. I just, I didn't want to risk burning the house down. So, watch your power supplies, yeah. Not sure why your Dell XPS caught fire on you, but I think that might be a plausible reason why it could have happened. Oh, fan connector. I've seen some really good pictures on Data Hoarder of things that would scare anybody that builds servers. Some of the pictures of people using like SATA power divider cables that like melt. So yeah, those are pretty bad too. So I'd play some music on this stream too, you know, like I don't care about the music thing, but I don't want to get the stream muted because I'm going to try and use this for perspective for a job interview that I've got on Thursday, being it's Tuesday today. So this is kind of an interesting and useful opportunity to do this for my benefit and for the benefit of somebody else. Yeah. Some of the fans, I guess, you know, maybe they get out of whack for the voltage that they need, or amperage getting old, the windings wear out. Who knows? Many reasons why that can happen. The phrase "get out and push" comes to mind at the moment, but it is a Pentium 4. Yeah, dust does a lot of strange things to computers. I've had a few of those come into the repair shop in years gone by where the only thing keeping it running was the dust. You take the dust out and it doesn't work anymore. It had like formed its own electrical path through the rat's nest. You know, if for those that have never seen this too, there's probably some people that maybe watch the stream that are familiar with Gentoo. You know, this is like managed building of software code. You know, Linux from scratch, you have to do all of these individual packages individually in certain order, and there's no management tool to help make that easy for you. But this package manager has hooks for managing that stuff. Really quite a clever utility. To have, like, to be able to set a managed profile for building software like this is unlike anything that I've used in the IT industry. Yeah, EIX is the search utility for Portage. It's a really good one to search the package database. Emerge, the package manager itself, has one included, but it's quite a lot slower. This EIX package has the ability to use and build an SQLite database of all of the software available and features and descriptions, and then pull all that data back out of the database it maintains on the current state of the packages available. It used to take quite a lot longer to do the installs that I used to do back in the day for Gentoo Linux that were very experimental. This is like a stage 3 install, and you might look at that as a new user and, oh, why is it a stage 3? Because there used to be stage 1 and stage 2. I mean, everybody that was the challenging Gentoo user or Gentoo user that enjoyed a challenge would do a stage 1, because you had to compile the compiler in GCC and Bootstrap, very low level compiling preparations. And doing that, you could also decide what features were included in glibc. And at the time there was NPTL that was very new, which changed how Linux functioned when it was executing processes. So it was a higher performing system that could only be added by doing a stage 1 install. So I wrote a guide back in the day in 2005, 2003, and had 150,000 views on Gentoo forums. And a lot of interesting things happened out of that. Sabian Linux and what used to be LXNA. Yeah, that forked off of Gentoo and became Sabian. And that guy was using my tutorial for a while and came up with his own. It's no point of sharing it all, because somebody will refine what you've worked on. And eventually NPTL became the default standard in Linux for the C library for glibc. Being able to use a non-file dependent process execution model. So you used to rely on how many files you could create. And it was kind of slow in that regard. But once that was removed, it went from being able to open, 150,000 threads in 15 minutes to doing it in 2. There we go. Holy shit, it's 455,000 now. Wow. Damn, son. I'll paste a link in chat too if anybody's interested. So there's something that I linked in that tutorial that described some things about NPTL in a reply comment. Back when is this? So yeah, it was that NPTL was going to be the new default threading model or threading library. That That was in June 2004. It's now 2019. I've been using this for a long time, I think. Damn, son. I got patience and less hair to show for it. But, yeah. So with the gig of RAM at the time, because they're probably using a Pentium 4. So this is like era-appropriate hardware for testing all of this shit too, which could be kind of cool. You got a gig of RAM exactly, Koth. Oh, I got a phone call. Amanda, what you doing? I'm on the live stream. I'm building somebody's computer in California.
I need your help.
Okay.
With papers, I gotta do them tonight. I'm not gonna be able to do them tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we can do them tonight. I'll be done in about an hour, and I'll head over and pick you up.
All right.
Okay?
Okay, bye.
Bye. Helping my girlfriend with her paper route. The things you do for, for girlfriends. Being 44 years old, and I'm doing a paper route. But, you know, it's something to do for fun, right? You got to get outside. But holy shit, what a performance improvement. So you could stop and start all 100,000 threads in parallel in 2 seconds with NPTL. But before that, because NPTL didn't exist in like Linux 2.4, it took 15 minutes. Like, if you're ever curious about the efficiency of Linux and how much the guys that built this really, you know, put into it, this says a lot. And, you know, donated that code to the benefit of everybody. Red Hat will charge for it, though. You can bet they will charge for it. But everybody has the same thing. So if they do memory splits in different configurations, and this isn't 64-bit either. They were doing this on 32-bit with a gig of RAM. 64-bit would be probably, you know, 375,000 threads in 2 seconds because of the extra memory bandwidth. It's pretty nuts. And that's probably without the VM split. 1 to 3 VM memory split config. You can set the memory load on Linux in custom fashions, or using the syscontrol utilities. Something that's popular when that's done is the swappiness. So you can set how much memory remains in swap, or not have a swap file. But I did make a 2 gig swap file, so we should have lots of swap. Oh, we're on Grub. Oh, Grub. And I'm only doing one thing that this does as well is build just 64-bit binaries if you only want that. So that's one thing that Gentoo does that allows you to keep your install very lean, uses the least amount of space as possible. So it is still taking a while, but it's an old machine. Ye old faithful. Ye old hardware can still be faithful. It just needs an operating system that can build itself. Those machines, if you ever look at uptime porn on Reddit, there's people that are shutting down machines that got like obsolete operating systems on them. And that's really the reason that they're doing it. Pulling hardware out of a dumpster now. Well, you're bound to find something like this server that I'm logged into today, and that's kind of where our generous server owner more or less got his from, I will imagine, and the one just like it covered in toner cartridge spillings. The used hardware recycled PC shop or something, I think you mentioned. So we'll get to set up Grub after this, and we're hoping that because it used a GPT partition table on a legacy BIOS system, that Grub will still be able to work and install itself. If not, we have to make a backup and back up the backup, and then repartition the disk with MS-DOS partition label, and recreate the partitions and file systems and remelt them, and then unpack the backup. But we'll see. If this thing can boot from GPT somehow, we'll give it a try. Because there's nothing lost in trying with Gentoo Linux. When you can reboot the CD that you used to build it with, remelt all the partitions, and change whatever the hell you like. Grub development seems to have really progressed very slowly in the last 2 years for versions that have been released. There's been updates. But and maybe I haven't noticed any additions, but libzfs being available in the Gentoo Linux build of Grub is a new development, maybe in the last couple of years. Some other ones that I don't generally use as well with Grub, like QEMU support with Grub, doesn't really seem to have been useful, but I'm not really installing QEMU guests on like ZFS ZVol block devices, and so maybe that would be a scenario where that would be necessary to use the QEMU software detection feature with Grub. OI7, where are you? I could dis-CC the hell out of this computer, but I'd have to expose some IP addresses, and yeah. We'll make an authentic temp with this one. It's doing pretty well, all things considered. We're into like 3.5 to 4 hours to build the install to a bootable state without doing updates. It's just a dual core machine from like 2009. So 10-year-old computer. it's getting a little quicker. Is it lib tooling? There's a stage of this compiling that's always lib tooling. I do have to comment that the people that make these build scripts are well beyond my ears adept with computer programming. Getting into Linus's computer would be like reading the Bible. So apparently this server does have ECC memory. So in the kernel config, I've also enabled some general software support for ECC memory features. And I use the kernel config from this, from my own 20-core Xeon machine. So we didn't really have an in-depth kernel configuration tutorial in this guide, because that probably would have taken an extra hour. If you have a backup config to use that's been very stable, then no reason not to use it, because the kernel configs can be portable. It is a text file. One of the great things about it. So we got about an hour left. So we're going to set this as bootable, and then I got to add all the paper route. Yeah, we're on kernel 5.2.2. Back in like 2004, it was like kernel 2.6.0. So we've come quite a long ways with what Linux offers. It's a monumental difference in advancements. And I'm still using like 4.19.57, and it's stable, and it's got everything major security compromise or vulnerability wise attended to that's occurred in the last year. Samba vulnerabilities maybe a year or 2 years ago, with SMB1 being vulnerable, and that's been removed now, SMB1. From the newest Windows update. They actually removed SMB1 from Windows. So no more SMB1. So I've been having good success testing Windows 10 1903, I think it is, with Samba. And so far no problems. Be able to access both ways. Probably could have this grub build take a lot less time by only picking one submodule, but yeah, I picked 3 of them. PC, UEFI 64-bit and 32. The 32-bit is a good one. It might not benefit this system, but if this build can be used on a freaking tablet, I could install this build after it's built on a freaking, like a Windows tablet. You just make a zip file of it and toss it on there and make it boot. And I'll show the backup script that I use for this after. To make the Gentoo Linux backups. So here's the backup script that I've been using, and I've also been using this since 2004. It was made by some real OG Linux users of Gentoo Linux. So, simple stuff like this just works. I edit it. I changed it for UEFI. Used this before UEFI existed on common hardware. Set your destination file system you want the backup in, and what directories you want to exclude. And it builds it, and it saves the ACLs and extended attributes for the files on the file system, along with the archive. And unmounts the boot partition afterwards. So, yeah, the handiest script that I have that I've used in 15 years is this. Yeah, well, we're getting to installing Gentoo. Yep, Mr. BR Breadline. Hey dude, how you doing? Compile along and prosper. Yeah, you can do that too if you want to move your home directory, but this script that I've got on screen I use for cloning systems without having the file systems or file partitions and disks. Kind of like the way that it's installed. You build it out of a tarball and just configure it so it's bootable. And then later on add whatever you like. So we're into about 3 or 4 hours of this. Yeah, I've got newer systems, but I'm doing this for somebody that I just recently met, Koth, who's somebody named something else in Twitch chat. He said hi earlier, but I closed the stream chat. And it's his server, and it's located in California somewhere, I think, in the United States. And I'm in Vancouver, and I'm logged into his server remotely. He was having problems with his server and offered to help him, and he accepted. So doing a bit of a Linux install for him after the test succeeded. So he was trying to unpack the installation tarball, and it would run out of space. I wasn't really sure why. I wasn't sure why, and there was no way to test it easily without actually trying it. To like create a couple different partitions, try and format them, create a file with nano, and nothing said error. There's no problems like using rsync to write files. So obviously it's
Where's the
working,
clerk?
but it just
I
needs
know.
installation.
I'll use the may I help you
And
with.
his Linux installation attempts using Ubuntu wouldn't display
May I help you?
the boot splash or the console frame buffer properly using newer live CDs from Ubuntu. Tried some other one and it didn't work either. It just failed to read the RAID. So, using a console only manual installation like this has been so far working really well. The RAID controller being the hang-up was something we were uncertain about at first, but here we go. We got a good one after all. And our friend here, he bought it from a computer recycling place. Even has ECC memory too. If it didn't have a gig of memory, it'd be like the slowest ZFS server that exists. It would be pretty slow with that DDR1 memory. Yep. It'd be hilarious to make it work though, but it we need a different disk controller. Yeah, you have to compile everything. That's the charm of it, though. Everything that you can compile, you can configure any way you want. Oh, there he is. I think that's his. Or maybe I didn't close the chat. I don't know. So after Grub is done building, which is taking quite a long time, I'll install one other package just before it gets away from me. Is a package that's called Genlop. There is a package manager for Gentoo, yeah, and it's the one that's building the software. It builds all software that it needs to or is instructed to, but it can also use pre-built software when there's a build that can use that software, a build file. Like, for example, NVIDIA CUDA, the CUDA toolkit for doing GPU computing. You know, that's third-party pre-built software. And Gentoo's package manager, you can write, you know, a bash script like this in a certain format according to their API, and tell the package manager how to pre-stage the contents of what's necessary in that tarball into a directory that's called a sandbox. And from that sandbox, the files are installed into the operating system. And a lot of the time, that stuff is a lot of benefits. So, GPU or like CUDA and OpenCL compute stuff for doing like artificial intelligence modeling and crap like that. You know, they tend to use these operating systems because it just lets them build to be able to do that for the systems they have available, and do nothing else but that really well. Like run a stock exchange, like NASDAQ. Yeah. Sometimes they need that stuff. And it's not always compiled, but extracted and prepared for installation. And depending how you code the e-build or package installation templates determines just how the package manager reacts to that file it downloads. But the stuff that can be compiled, there's a lot of customization you can do for edge case scenarios, or, you know, hardware that isn't supported by Linux distributions for 6 to 12 months. I had that happen to me in 2018 when I was trying to get 7 graphics cards working on a Z370 Asus motherboard with an 8th generation Pentium 4. And it would boot on generic live CDs from Ubuntu, from Debian, Arch Linux, even Gentoo Linux's live CDs, and SysRescue CD as well. All 5 of those. Who was it? Fedora wouldn't boot and show the login console. So I ended up having to custom install Gentoo by building the installation using another machine with a USB SATA bridge connected to the disk that was going to go into the destination machine. So, like all console installation. And that's how I did my Juniper appliance as well. I've got a Juniper appliance that I pulled out of a dumpster, an e-waste bin that's got Gentoo on it. It's got legacy BIOS. Yeah. Sometimes you got to do it. You know, if you have the opportunity to do it, just do it. I've got to go do paper deliveries with a girlfriend in probably like 40 minutes. So I'm trying to get this grub configured and see if it'll boot. So I have a maybe 60-40% suspicion that Grub won't actually work with a GPT partition label on this drive. But I might be wrong. I'm swinging 60-40. But if it does work, that'll be great. That would be fantastic. How many do I got, homie? Oh, yeah, well, they've all got kids when they're my age, so, you know, you got to keep the kids happy too. I think the girlfriend that I'm going to do paper route with, she's got 3 or 4 kids. All good bunch. My son's probably 19. Yeah. Yeah. What can I say? 15 to 17 years of sun deprivation from compiling software. You know. Yep. So I don't know. Have a few less girlfriends and a few more computers. All right. So we got to uncomment the systemd grub, but it's in the wrong path. It's in lib now. So we'll make sure it says lib. I haven't done an install on a legacy BIOS system since the Juniper appliance, but we'll try UEFI. Let's have a look at the manual. Come on, work. Okay, well, let me see here. I screwed up that BIOS grub. One of the partition flags. Come on, it's going to work here. It's not going to work at all. Okay, that's fixing problems. Let me see here. Okay. So Genlop. Not quite yet, my friend. We're going to do one more. This will track the build times on all of the packages that you compile or install. Got to check the change of a flag on the Perl libraries for threading. Rebuild that and then do Perl Cleaner and then install Genlop. And Genlop will track the package build times. I'll show you an example on mine. Okay, so all of the builds since the server was, since it had Genlop installed, you know, and some of them are a lot longer, but like 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 7. There's a big one, Qt WebKit. So some of them like half an hour, running 10 compile threads. Qt Web Engine's a huge one. Okay, so what we're looking for. End curses, no. Not curl. Yeah, and there it is. So we don't want to install new Perl packages before the environment path for the Perl changes. And it will change if you're changing .i threads, which will make it seem like some Perl modules cannot be located, but that Perl cleaner will fix that before new ones are installed. You can humor us, Koth, when you build Qt Web Engine. Reply with the build time taking 6 hours. I probably wouldn't even build, maybe. Not even sure with gig RAM. But if you have a VM for this, you can pre-build the software. Just clone the install with the script, the backup script. This will be next. I'll just copy this, create the file. Yeah, Gentoo does a really beautiful job with ensuring you have a full color terminal experience to use as well. Some of the other major Linux distributions just give you like a grayscale terminal, and there's a lot of very expeditious utility from being able to view some things in more detail. There. So that'll be correct for the booted system. Oh, I gotta make the grub configuration file too. So good you didn't reboot it yet. Without the grub config file, it won't boot at all. So we'll do that after the Perl updates are done. When these vape cartridges get near empty, they get pretty tough to suck on. Of course, when I guess it just blazing vape cartridges in 2019. Yeah, if I don't do this now to get Genlop installed, then you'll get to installing more stuff later, and those histories for how long things take to build. You won't have them to start building that history across the time you use the installation. Even on other machines, you'll be able to see the difference later if you use Genlop, because maybe it'll build something faster. Another really good utility is there's a package that Gentoo provides in the package tree that tracks your system uptimes, and I've been using that recently too, since it was mentioned on Gentoo Reddit. I'll have to look and see which one it is. I forget. See, there's nice. I don't know what package provided that, but I know the service is Uptime D. So, simple as that. Oh well, that's the name of the package. It's Uptime D, and it provides up records. So I didn't know the name of that binary off the top of my head either. But boom. Typical uptimes. Really,
where's the clerk?
Very simple program.
I know. I'll use the "May I help you" riff.
So.
May I help you?
56 days of uptime since October 24th. in 2018. Which is pretty good. I've had to reboot it a bunch of times, but I update. So you might want that package too. You could probably install it as your first one later. And it has system D support too, so it'll start when your system boots. Just uptime D. Yeah. So I've got I'll try and start a full world rebuild just to see how many packages are in my server. I'm guessing it's probably 1,100, maybe more. You know, this is something like rebuilding everything. You want to rebuild everything, you just tell it to rebuild everything. It'll rebuild everything until it can't rebuild anything else. Does all the pre-build checks, consistencies to make sure that you got enough memory to build freaking spider monkey. You know, make sure your use flags are what they are. If there's any minor things that need to be changed, it'll automatically do it. And this might take 8 hours, might take 2 days, you know, but you can rebuild all of it. And that'll update your binaries for which compilers you're using currently, so that they're not linked to like old GCC libraries and so on. If you update the core system, you can rebuild all your software so it still runs. Okay, so I'll stop it there. And we have, ooh, that's 1,365 packages. My other server has, or had 1,700. But when I updated it, I purged all the 32-bit libraries and binaries out of it, so that it would be easier to update. This is just all pure 64-bit on the server. Pretty much just running an idleplex server right now. No logins. Yep. Yeah, ZFS is pretty cool too if you've never seen ZFS. So I haven't installed this auto snapshot package yet for my server. We could probably do that. I'll have to keyword it, which I probably haven't done yet. On 24. I think I see what I did there. Got to set up my ZFS snapshots. There we go. And that's set up and it'll run from Cron tab. Just in time too. So yeah, ZFS. Lots and lots of fancy stuff you can do with this. Rollback snapshots. So if somebody deletes something, you just roll back and you get your files back. Oh, that's not too bad. That's only 13 small packages. I've got to get going soon, so this will finish up and we'll get you rebooted. Last thing is the grub configuration file. That's the last thing. Maybe we'll do that right now. Okay, you're in bootable shape. Once this stuff finishes, should be good to go. Now the IP address changed too, so it's on .55. So when it comes up, it'll be on .55. Yeah. So you see how it's adding, it's changing the path of the Perl modules. It's removing them from the non-threaded path. See, there we go. x86 64 Linux threaded multi Perl. So threaded Perl. Be able to multi-thread. And you can build Apache on top of that as well using this to take care of like multi-process threading. With mod Perl, for example, can only be used with this iThreads feature in Perl. With Apache that's also built with threads. Go figure. There can only be one. But it's faster with the threading. It's a lot snappier. There's a good example right here. Going in and coming out. Path is different. There's little tools like this Perl cleaner in Gentoo that help you maintain this stuff. Like fix libtoolfiles.sh. That's an automated script that's now part of the GCC upgrade process in Gentoo Linux. You used to have to do that manually, but it was integrated right into the build system. You don't have to do stage 1 builds anymore because they provide them pre-bootstrapped. There's no need for stage 1 anymore for actually like compiling GCC. Unless you're maybe using, say, UClibc and not GCC, maybe you want to bootstrap your system. And I think you still can do it. You used to have to do it all the time to fully build GCC from scratch. We're probably on 4 hours doing this. Maybe it was like 5 o'clock when I started, and it's 7:30 right now. So how many do we got left? That's the last one. Okay, now it's going to install Genlop, and we're done. And then I got to go deliver papers and make a lady happy, or she'll kill me. Yeah, and there is final setup to do on this. Afterwards, you have to set the time zone. Probably recompile the kernel once to, affect that change so that the time zone's consistent with the kernel as well. Because it does record the time zone when you compile the Linux kernel. Compiling software is very sensitive of clock skew. If you're like software clock is different than hardware clock. So as consistent as you can get it is always great. These Perl modules go quick. It's just a pain having to rebuild them and not have it work. They're still pretty quick though. It would have been more of a pain if I'd installed Genlop before doing the Perl rebuild or Perl cleaner. Anybody taking bets on whether it'll boot the first try? Koth will let everybody know for us. I don't see any reason why it might not, but Grub installed, so, and it's a GPT partition on a legacy BIOS machine. But that's good. That's good that GPT worked. Just have to have the correct partition table set up. I think an extracurricular hobby of Gentoo would be knitting, but I don't know any jack shit about knitting. So yeah, I could see somebody knitting doing this. This would be a good knitting extracurricular activity. Wow, it's actually like 40 Perl packages for Genlop. 2016. There is, maybe you guys could help me. There's a movie that I watched. It had a spin on what it was like to use old computers. It was one of those Wall Street movies where one of the big actor guys, like Jack Nicholson kind of actor guy, was playing an investment banker, and they managed to rip off a big stock or something on the stock exchange, on the Wall Street Stock Exchange. And when they got busted, because he fessed up to it in the movie, they had a scene in the movie where, you know, like the guys in the basement that are running the computers are trying to delete files, and he's trying to delete files on Windows 95, and it's taking 5 minutes, and it's like, you know, throwing the pieces of paper in the recycle bin in 4 minutes. It was fun using those old computers, wasn't it? Well, we're back here again. Yeah. But, you know, that's old hardware, man. It's kind of cool still that you can make use of old hardware by doing this for something. The TempFS feature in Linux makes this, you know, even if it's got 500 megabytes of RAM in it, you could use it as a caching server. Memory cache. Be a slow ass memory cache, but, you know, PHP accelerator maybe. With PHP FPM. Small web server. Yeah, if you haven't experimented with Tor at all, it's actually kind of cool how it works. Run a web server that's bound to localhost, and then Tor accesses it over localhost. We'll probably work on this server too. $23.40. Okay. Well, I've got to go, folks. But Koth, once this is done, you should be safe to reboot. Because I did the grub configuration. The IP config's done. The user's added. SSH will start. Kernel config should just work. So I've got to head out because the girlfriend wants me to go and help her with a paper route. So I'm just going to disconnect, and Koth will let us know how things work out. If something needs to be fixed, we can look at it when I get back, or you can try fixing it yourself. Okay, dude. Thanks, man. And it's been fun. I didn't expect to have to go out, and I thought I'd be able to finish it all. But, you know, the girlfriend didn't give me very much notice. But the things we do for pussy. Gotta go. Cheers, folks.